Hello friends, welcome to my channel Go Digit. Today in this video we will cover the new features that has been released by the Microsoft on 3rd of October with the new version called Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central 2022 Release Wave 2. Right guys, as we know that Microsoft launched the major version twice in a year, so this is the second time when they are releasing this new version with the name 2022 release wave 2, or we can call it Business Central version 21 also. Right. So first of all, I will share this link also on the description section from where you can download the latest version. Right. For example, when you place this link on the URL and click on the download, here you will get the list of all the localizations which based on your need you can download and install. But guys, as we know that this is a on-prem version, so when you download this, you will be working with the on-premise Business Central. It's not the cloud version. If you want to use the cloud version, then you must have to be buy the cloud version or cloud license from the Microsoft, and then only you could use it. There is another provision through which you can upgrade yourself if you are a cloud customer to latest version. Okay, but in this video we will cover up only the on-prem part. So when you click on this, you will like system will begin the download, and we have already seen in the past that how to install the Business Central. If you don't know, I recommend you to please watch my previous videos where I've explained you how to install the on-prem Business Central environment in your local system. Okay, so now if you see here, it is my latest version, which is BC210. As I told you, the latest version is BC21. So this is the latest version of the Business Central. And with this new version, Microsoft have introduced tons of features, tons of new features, which will be very useful both for the user and for the developer. Okay, so for example, if I click on this link here, they have explained everything about the new features which they have introduced with this latest version, right? So although because it is not possible to cover up every new feature in this today's video, so I have list out some of the new features which I find very attractive and very useful. Although every feature is very useful, we can always see it in the meantime, and maybe it is, if possible, I will make out some more videos to explain one by one every feature which they have introduced. Okay, so I will share this link also in the description so that you can check out all the new features which they have introduced. But now let's cover up certain features which I have seen and check out that how we can use them and how it will benefit us. Okay, so the first thing is connect to Azure functions from the AL code. So guys, if you are my regular subscriber and you have watched my few videos from the past, so you guys know that I have made a series on the Azure functions, like how to use the feature of Azure functions from the Business Central from the AL code, through which because Azure function is a very rich feature by which you can utilize all your .NET code, or if you want to add some extra functionalities which by default AL language does not provide, so you can use them, and this is really a very handy feature. So they have now make this experience more seamless. Now the integration of the AL language with the Azure function is uh, more seamless, you could say. So whenever you start writing the AL code with respect to the Azure functions, you will find certain more functions like authentication with the Azure function becomes so easy. AL developer can easily do that. We can issue the GET request, and there are certain query parameters with respect to calling out an API. So we can utilize those features also, those query parameters also with the GET request and with the POST request. Okay, so this is one of the features which they have added in the latest version. Talking about the second feature, this is also a very good feature, I could say, about the application area on fields defaults to the page value, right? So we all know that whenever we develop anything in the AL, we have to add this application area property to each of our field, right? So that our field, based on the permissions, based on our license permission, will be visible to the users, right? But now, as they have mentioned here, there is no need to explicitly mention the application area property, okay, to each field. Okay, so for example, if you read this statement, page controls or actions without application area initially were not displayed in the cloud experience. Usually, however, the individual page controls would have the same application area as the parent page. So having to set this individually on each page control leads to the redundant work. Okay, now if you talk about this, if you see this, page controls without the application area property explicitly set now inherit the application area defined on the parent page. Okay, so if you define the application area property on the parent page, so all the page controls will now inherit this property from the page itself. Okay, so it is also one of the good feature. I believe you can check this out for more details, and I believe it's a very handy feature for the developers. Now talking about the second feature, so here it is apply code actions across objects and projects. So we all know, for example, if I show you the uh, AL VS Code, so if we go to the extensions, sorry, if we go to the settings, and here in the extensions part, if I click on the A language extensions, so if we open the settings.json, we have this property called al.enable code actions is equals to true. Okay, so with this, for example, whenever we add this, okay, so afterwards, if we want to write some certain code, so this enable code actions will help us to refactor our code, right? For example, if I write something, let's say create customer, okay, so now you see we got this bulb button which helps us to quickly fix this issue, because right now there is no instance, there is no function, there is no variable defined with such name. So that's why it is showing an error. But if we click on this, it will help us to that we can it will help us to create a procedure with this name, okay, and with some advanced option as well. With advanced option means that we can define certain parameters also with it. So that's a very handy feature. But now what they have done is that this code actions is now applicable across the objects across your complete project. So it will help you to refactor your complete project, not only a small portion of the code. Okay, so that is also, I could say, a very handy feature, because code actions really help us to write the code in a more faster way and in a more elegant way, so that we cannot our indentation is proper, our all the variables which we have used, all the functions which we have used, we just have to type the name and everything will be a proper snippet has been created automatically by this function. So now it is applicable for all your complete extension and not limited to particular set of lines only. Okay, so this is one of the very handy feature. Now talking about this one, apply resource exposure policy to dev extensions. Guys, this is a very good feature. So dev extensions, if you don't understand, dev extensions are the extensions. For example, this is AL project 17 is a new extension which I'm building on my VS Code. So if I deploy this extension via VS Code only, to the business central environment. So when it get deployed to my business central environment here, okay, and if I go to this extension management page, so it will list out as a dev extension. Okay, because I have deployed this extension from the VS Code itself. So right now you could see publish as global, but if you deploy via the VS Code, it will be mentioned as a dev extension, right? So dev extensions are currently considered as an extension which are useful for the testing purposes, right? Like anybody can check the code, anybody can access the code, anybody uh, can modify the core code by just using it. So everything is very much possible with that extension because it's a dev extension. It's its means that it can be changeable, it can be modifiable. But now if we go to the app.json, we have a resource exposure policy parameter, which we always know that it helps us to limit whether we want our extension to be debugged by the another developer, to whether we allow to download our source or not. So along with that, they have introduced this property called apply to dev extension. Okay, so if we set this to true, which means that now all the other resource exposure policies which you define in this parameter will be applicable to your dev extensions as well. So that if you set this to false, if you set this to false, then even your dev extensions will not be debuggable and nobody can download the source code also of it. Okay, so that also is one of the very handy switch, I could say. Uh, for example, if you don't want to, if you don't want another partner to check out your source code, to check out your extension, so you can set this to true, and then nobody can watch out or see your extensions code. Okay, now talking about the another feature, this is also one of the good feature, enable no implicit with feature by default. So let me show you. Uh, Here in the app.json, under this features, there's a this property called no implicit with. So if you define this, okay, this will help us to avoid writing the code which have the with concept. Okay, so for example, here if you see my code unit, here I've defined the table number as customer. Okay, which means that, let me delete these lines of code, which means if I define this, then there is no need to write customer dot set range, right? Because by default I'm working on the record only, current record only, so it will by default understand that I'm working on the customer variable. Okay, so that's why I've not added any uh, variable name, record name with the set range. Okay, so which is now wrong because we all know Microsoft, as per the standard coding guidelines, we should not use the with statement. Okay, so like the thing is, if I remove this no implicit with, okay, and let's debug this code. Oh, sorry, let's build this code. So the package is successfully created and there is no issue with this statement. Although if you see in the problem section, we are getting this warning that use of implicit with will be removed in the future. Qualify with the record, right? That I should write like this, record dot set range. Now the warning is gone. But because currently with this version also with statement is very much active, we can use it. It will just give us the warning and not an error. But because it's a warning, so we have to handle our code accordingly and we have to refactor our code accordingly. So what you need to do is you go to the app.json, go to the features tab, and here add this no implicit with. And now as soon as you add this, and if you try to build your project, you will get an error. The package could not be created, and we are getting an error here that the name set range does not exist in the current context. So we have to mention record.setRange and now the error is gone, and if I build this, my project is successfully built. So I really recommend you guys to please add this feature on all of your extensions so that system can automatically checks that nowhere you have used or write any code which promotes the with statement. Okay, so it means that it will generate an error and not a warning. Very good feature, we all have to use it. Okay, so now let's see the another property which is called launch in a specific company from the Visual Studio Code. Guys, sometimes we do face a situations that if we are running a database which have multiple companies in it, okay, so in that point of time, we really want to debug, we really want to test some functionality in a particular company only and not at the complete database level. So during that point of time, we if we wanted our project, our testing should be start right after we launch our extension from the VS Code. So to do that, what you need to do is you go to the launch.json, and here this new parameter has been added, startup company. So when you add this, you have to mention the name of the company which will be open up against your extension when you launch this, when you deploy this extension to your business central environment, so that you can directly start working on that particular company. Okay, so that's also one of the very good feature, I could say, that it is sometimes very much required by the developers, and that's why I could possibly say that it's a good feature and we should use it. Okay, so this is another feature. Now let's move to another feature which is called record tooltip has new primary key indicator. Okay, so what it is, for example, now if you let's say create a new variable of record type, okay, and if you now hover your cursor on that part, it will show you along with the list of the field which are available in the table. It will also show you what which field is actually the primary key of that table. For example, here PK1, which shows that number is the first primary key of the customer table. Okay, and if you place your cursor on the second variable, which is ship to address in my case, now you see it is showing me two primary keys, customer number and the code. And if you see this one and two, one means that customer number is the first field of the primary key and the code is the second field of the primary key. And both these fields are the part of the primary key only. So that's a really good feature that sometimes whenever we have to write the code and we don't remember that whether which field is the primary key by default. So generally till now what we do that we click on selected, go to the definition, then check out the key section and then get to know that which field is exactly the primary key. But now you just have to place your cursor and you will get to see that which is the primary key. Very good feature, very handy feature for the developers, right? Now let's talk about another feature. See the primary key for the table fields in the IntelliSense. So it's like an extension of this feature, that because now we have defined the variables here, and also when you write certain code, also for example I'm writing ship to address, and now if I type the field name, whatever field name I want to use against that variable, it is also showing me this information that the field which you are using is the primary key 1, right? Or second field code, so it is saying that it is PK2. So even the IntelliSense is suggesting you that the field against which you're writing any code belongs to the primary key or not. Okay, so that's also a very good feature, that while writing the code also you will easily get to know that you're working with the primary key fields. Okay, very good feature, very handy feature. Okay, now let's move. for another new feature which is AL Go for GitHub. Okay, so it's like I could say I'll show you uh, a complete link that what exactly it is, but it's like a modern DevOps for the partners. It is for the partners also. It is for the partners, and it is a DevOps kind of functionality, right? Let me show you this link. So if we read this, it's a set of GitHub templates and actions which can be used to set up and maintain professional DevOps processes for your business central AL projects. So this is made specifically for the business central AL projects only, and we have, if we use this, we have the rich DevOps functionality with us, and there are certain templates which we can use to perform all the DevOps operation which we want to use with our code. So that's why it's a handy feature for the partners. Now if you read this also, you will find that the certain templates, uh, like how to start with this feature is that we have a template for per tenant extension. It is the GitHub repository template for per tenant extensions. Okay, and if we want to create a PPE extension, like specifically for our on-prem customers, right? So if we approach them also, if we are approaching on our on-prem customers, then we can use this template. Or if we are building an app for our app stores for our cloud customers, then we can use this template for performing all our DevOps processes into it. So it's a very good feature, but it's not a feature which I can explain you in just 2 or 3 minutes. It requires a complete separate video. So if you want, I can make a separate video on it also. But this is also one of the things which they have launched with this new version, that we can utilize this functionality, utilize these templates with our new customers who will be deploying to the BC21. Okay, now after this, we have covered up certain development features, technical features. Now I want to cover up certain functional features as well. So for example, this feature is called extend general ledger posting aggregations. So we all know that although it is also more related for the from the developer's perspective, like whenever we have to play with the GL entries, right? We want to post certain things in the GL entry, so we have to flow those data via the table invoice posting buffer. Okay, but now with this new version, Microsoft have removed the dependency on this table. Okay, so there is no requirement, like if you read this statement, we remove the dependencies from the invoice posting buffer table in the base application and build an invoice posting component with an interface and an extension enum for the implementation setup. Okay, so there is no need to use this now, and but they have built a new feature, or you could say an interface, which is will be an invoice posting component interface, which we can use for posting the data in the GL entries. Okay, so it's also I could say an enhancement to the current process which we used to post the data in the GL entries table. Okay, so because interface is really handy feature, and it allows us to write the more to write the code in a more effective manner. Okay, so that's one of the good feature which they have launched with this new version. Talking about the second feature is the financial reporting, which replaces an account schedule. So for example, previously, because we know Business Central is an ERP, so ERP is known for its MIS reports, Management Information Systems reports, right? We can fetch out the data, the reports, which are specifically made for the managements, right? So that they should not drill down to the processes like sales, purchase, sales order, invoice, and everything. They just have to check out those reports, which could collect all the data from different processes and uh, show the consolidated value, that how much you are in a profit, how much you are in a loss. So that till now was available in the accounts schedule, but now they have refined this account schedule process and name it as financial reports. Okay, so even if you write this account schedule, you won't find any page with that name. You will get this name, that financial report you are actually looking for. So when you click on it, although you will find this reports are very much similar with the naming part and of course from the data part, because the essence is same, but of course they have introduced some of the new features. For example, if you click on the edit financial reports, you will see a certain new functionalities added in this financial report section. So uh, that's also a good feature which you have to explore. Right now I have not explored it much, but uh, we can see it later on in the future, that how much more accessible it has become now than the account schedule. Okay, let's see the another feature: find posted and non-posted document lines in search. That's really a good feature. Let me show you what it is. So we often come across situations where our client demands that I want to see my sales invoice on the line basis, right? My purchase invoice on the line basis. Okay, so for example, if I type here purchase order, so we only get to see the information related to the header part, which have the vendor information, right? And when you have created the order and everything, but it does not have the item information, that what item I'm purchasing. Okay, so for that, you either have to develop a page out of the scratch, or you have to create a report which you could show out everything from the lines perspective. But now, uh, you all these features is now available out of the box only. So for example, if you type a purchase lines, here it is, you click on it. Okay, and it is available very much now, and you see it is information is available on the line basis. And even with, if you want to see the posted lines, you can just type posted purchase lines and it is available for you. So now user can access more detail from the item perspective, from the lines perspective, by accessing these pages, and you no need to create those pages or develop those pages which your user needs, right? So it's a very good feature, I could say. Now, one of the last feature is that make entry of variant codes required. Okay, so for example, here what they have done is that if you go to the inventory setup, okay, they have added a field that do you really want to make the variant code mandatory if exist. See, so it says that variant mandatory if exist, which means that if you are maintaining a variant of any particular item, okay, then it is mandatory to mention it on your sales order, on your purchase order, if you check this to true. Okay, so otherwise, if you check this to false, then also, either if you are maintaining an item variant of any particular item and you don't if you don't define it explicitly on your orders, then system will not throw an error. But if you define this, then you have to mention it explicitly. Apart from this checkbox also, they have provided an accessibility of this feature on the item card also. So for example, if you go to the item list and check out any particular item which have any existing item variant, okay, so from there also you can set up its uh, set up the control of this variant feature, that whether you want to use the setup which you define in the inventory setup page, whether you want the system to give you any error or not. So for example, if you open this item card, let's say, okay, and I don't think so that bicycle is having any variant, but uh, obviously we can define the variants. Uh, okay, so if you don't know, item variants are nothing but like uh, having a same like for example you buy a smartphone which have 8 GB variant, 12 GB variant, 5 64 GB variant, 128 GB variant. So rather than you create multiple items, you can just create one item and define different variants in the item variant section. So that is the item variant. So here, if you see this new field, variant mandatory if exists, it's an extension of that field which I've shown you on the inventory setup. By default, it is yes. That yes, if you are maintaining any variant, then you have to define it on the orders. But in case you don't want it mandatory, then you can set it to no. And now, if you are maintaining any variant on the item, then also there is no need to explicitly define on the orders pages. Right. So this is one of the new features which they have introduced in the latest version. And with that note, I want to stop this video now because we have seen so many new features, but obviously it's just a few only. If you want to know more, then you can access this page and check out all the new features which they have introduced in the latest version. So guys, if you like this video, I request you to please hit the like button and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.